right, we got you started with containers, with seeds. Now let's get right down to business and really talk about seeding. So I'm going to do some demonstration seeding here in this prepared container, and we're first going to do a little bit in the way of cool season crops, right? So here's some turnips that I have, a nice small seed, and what I'm going to do is just gently sprinkle it along the top of the media. Now, how heavy you seed these depends upon how mature, right, how large they're going to grow, or how closely spaced they are. In this particular instance, with this divided tray right here, if I skip a row now and then, it'll provide more air circulation, and I can seed the seeds a little bit closer. Overall, I would say you want to sprinkle them so that they are evenly covering the surface of the media, but not touching each other, right? We don't want a whole clump of seeds all on top of each other, because they're not going to get mature, right? They're not going to become huge plants, but stems close together will prevent air movement, will retain moisture, and which could lead to damping off. So we're going to sprinkle those over the top of the surface of the media as evenly as we possibly can. And for most of these, we're not going to cover them up. These can actually be germinated right on the surface of the media. It'll reduce a little bit the chance that we have peat moss or things like that in our harvested microgreens. And so once we get them seeded, the next crucial step is going to be watering those in. And so this may be one of the most important points of growing microgreens. You want to water them in with as fine a mist as possible. A mist nozzle would be great, a water breaker that really reduces the pressure, because you want to moisten the seeds, you want to moisten the media, but you don't want to bounce the seeds, right? You want them to retain their place evenly scattered across the surface of the media. And so there are some other options that you can use if you're going to be germinating these indoors, away from the sunlight. You could use a plastic cover like this. Certainly do not use this if you're going to be germinating them outdoors or someplace where they're going to get bright sunlight, because the temperature could get too high too quickly. For a lot of our cool season crops, the ideal germination temperature is going to be in that 70 to 75 range. If we're talking about amaranth or basil, then those temperatures could be more up in that 80 range, but we want to make sure that we provide the best germination conditions that we possibly can so that we can get this quick maturing crop up rapidly. After germination, we want to make sure that we keep the media evenly moist, but certainly not too wet, and to the best of our ability, we want to keep those plant stems dry. And so bottom watering can be really useful. That's why I kind of pointed out on some of these containers, like the small blueberry container or this seedling tray. If you can water from the bottom, that can be a great asset in reducing the risk of disease. And so if you have a little bit of fertilizer in your starter mix, you want to keep an eye out, make sure you don't have a lot of yellowing or light green tissue that could indicate nitrogen deficiency, those types of things. But it's common for you not to have to provide a lot of fertilizer if there's a bit of starter mix in the media. If, of course, you're growing on paper, something like that, then you'll need to go ahead and provide some fertilizer to keep them growing strong. So we've talked a little bit about seeding, we've talked a little bit about watering. Of course, we also have the crucial element of light and growing conditions. So these young vegetative plants do not need as bright a light as your outdoor vegetable crops would. But they're going to need kind of about as much light as a young transplant would, right? So indoor conditions are not going to quite cut it. You're going to need a bright window, you're going to need a well-lit sunroom, a slightly protected porch, or a nice supplemental lighting system that runs for 12 to 14 hours a day. With good light, with good temperature and moisture management, you can turn over these crops quickly and provide great microgreens over the course of the upcoming winter. I mentioned a little bit about watering, a little bit about moisture. You want to keep in mind that this is not a real large amount of media. And so certainly it can dry out quickly if outdoors, if areas where there's a lot of wind movement. So keep a close eye on the moisture within that medium. And with all of these tips, this should be a great way to get you started. Try a few different cultivars, experiment a little bit, see what you like. And in the next section, I'm going to talk just a little bit about harvesting and maturity.